What is the difference between a hybrid RIA and a hybrid broker-dealer? That is today's question on the Transition to RIA question and answer series. It is episode number 101. Hi, I'm Brad Wales with Transition to RIA, where I help you understand everything there is to know about why and how to transition to the RIA model. If you're not already there, if you head on over to transitiontoria.com, you can find all of the resources I make available from this entire series in video format, podcast format. I have articles, I have white papers, information on how to contact me. Again, you can find all of that at transitiontoria.com. Okay, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about what is the difference between a hybrid RIA and a hybrid broker-dealer. So for starters, I would say you always have to be careful when you hear the word hybrid used out in the marketplace. And I equate it, another word you might have heard me talk about this before, is similar to how often in the different ways that the word TAMP is used, a turnkey asset management program is used in the marketplace. I've done a whole separate episode on what is a TAMP where I talk about this, but the point being, whether it's the word hybrid or the word TAMP, you have to be careful because for better or worse, in our marketplace, in our industry, both of those words are used in a number of different ways, alluding to a number of different kinds of solutions. And so just if you hear that word, it doesn't necessarily, or either of those words, it doesn't necessarily equate to exactly what you might think it is equating to. So part of what we're going to be talking on this episode is, what exactly is that hybrid and then the difference between a hybrid RIA and a hybrid broker dealer. So for starters, I'll just give kind of a quick explanation of what hybrid whatever is. I've done a whole separate episode on what is a hybrid RIA if you want to do a really deep dive on that. But again, there's no universal definition for what, for instance, a hybrid RIA is. And it's used in a number of different ways, but it's generally commonly kind of accepted, and there's different variations, different flavors of this, that is referring to a financial advisor that's essentially wearing two hats. And for most financial advisors out in the marketplace, this is the case. So if you are at a wirehouse firm or an independent broker-dealer firm, typically you are wearing perhaps two hats. And so what I mean by that is you have your Series 7, which makes you a registered representative of the firm's broker-dealer, and that's what enables you to offer commission-based solutions to your clients in a brokerage account on a commission basis. You might also be wearing, and again, many of you are wearing both of these hats, that of whether you took the 65 or the 66, or there's some other kind of exemptions to it, but where you are an investment advisor representative under your firm's RIA, that enables you to offer fee-based services and open accounts on a fee basis for your client. Those are distinctly two separate kind of regulatory bodies that govern those. And you are wearing two different hats. Now, you might have some clients that are only commission clients. You might have some clients that are only fee-based clients, or you might have some clients that have one of each type of the account. Regardless, if you are kind of operating under both of those worlds, that is arguably a hybrid relationship, meaning you are not only able to offer fee-based solutions, you're able to offer commission-based solutions as well. And so your firm, it's tricky because these wirehouses, regional broker-dealers, independent broker-dealers, we use that terminology and refer to them as broker-dealers. And there are some that is all they are. They are a broker-dealer. They're not duly registered as an RIA. They don't have an RIA on the side. They are solely a broker-dealer. But for most of what we think of as traditional financial advisors in the marketplace, if they're at some sort of quote-unquote broker-dealer, that broker-dealer itself is not only a broker-dealer, but also an RIA. And we're going to get to that's kind of what today's topic is of how these differ. But because of that, if that is you and you're wearing those dual hats, you are arguably already in some sort of quote unquote hybrid solution as it stands now. That's why this is tricky. And someone says, oh, come, we have the hybrid solution or our version of hybrid solution. Well, the reality is most financial advisors out there are arguably in some flavor of hybrid now. It's just not necessarily thought of that way or referred to that way, but there are differences between all of these. And kind of an extreme example of kind of where the word gets all buzzy and used. And you kind of saw this like 10 years ago when everyone, all these firms wanted to start throwing around hybrid. It was kind of the sexy word to say, and oh, look at our great hybrid solution. And there are probably other instances of this, but I specifically recall there's an independent broker-dealer. Will protect the guilty, won't name them, but there they were with their traditional, what we would think of as an independent broker-dealer offering, which for the right advisor is a good solution. And a lot of those advisors, again, are wearing the two hats, the brokerage hat and the commission hat. And they were like, hey, this whole hybrid thing is being talked about, and we're losing advisors to these so-called hybrid solutions. And so they tweaked some of their kind of payout and economics a little, and then slapped the fancy word hybrid on it, and kind of put out all kind of press release and talked about this great new hybrid offering they had. And the reality is, nothing changed except for maybe a little tweaking of how the economics worked. But the advisors were still under the firm's broker-dealer. The advisors are still under the firm's RIA. The advisors are still using all the same technology, relying on all the same compliance people. So it just shows you have to be careful. It's very easy for someone to just tout a hybrid solution, but the reality is it actually anything different? Is it better than what you have now? Is it what you think they are referring to? So certainly some things to think about. And these firms, the reason they're maybe jumping on the bandwagon of calling it hybrid or whatnot is the traditional broker-dealers, again, the firms that even to this day, we've wirehouses, broker-dealer, again, regional broker-dealers, IBDs, independent broker-dealers, all of those firms were traditionally and solely started as a broker-dealer. So you go back decades, right? The average quote-unquote financial advisor back then was a broker, a registered representative. That was the only hat they were wearing. And the services they provide their clients, they made their revenue, the advisor, on a commission basis, whether from selling a variable annuity, selling a mutual fund, a commission on a stock transaction, fixed income, whatever the case may be. And so you have the large firms of today were started as that broker-dealer. Well, the reality is slowly over time, right, this idea of having fee-based accounts became more and more popular. And these firms ended up either duly registered or added an RIA, often referred to as a corporate RIA. Did a whole separate episode on that. So now these broker-dealers kind of evolved after perhaps decades of building out technology and personnel and policies and procedures based on a broker-dealer world, a broker relationship, a commission-based relationship. And they added the RIA to it because there was this increasing demand from their brokers to also wear those two hats and do more fee-based accounts. But the reality is the market has now grown to the point that at all of the large firms you can think of, whether, again, wirehouse, regional, IBDs, if you look at the total assets, client assets that those firms have, in almost all instances of the bigger ones, it has now evolved that more than half of the client assets held at that firm are now in the fee-based side of the firm, not the broker-dealer commission-based side of the firm. And so it's interesting that we still refer to these people as, or these firms as broker-dealers, when in reality, they're now predominantly RIAs, and the broker-dealer part is a smaller part of the business. But again, it's because for decades, that's how they were built. And that's what we've been referring to them as decades. And they're now having to try to reinvent themselves as more predominantly an RIA because that's where the advisor and the client demand has pushed them to go. And so we'll talk about how that reinvention is occurring. But just keep in mind the evolving landscape and what that might mean for you as your own practice continues to evolve as well. But circling back to the kind of definition of hybrid, so with all of that context, it can be used, again, a number of different ways. Arguably, most firms have some flavor of hybrid, but I think the truest definition, or the most maybe commonly accepted definition, if you will, of a hybrid RIA or a hybrid relationship is where you have your own RIA, you go and start your own RIA, and you still have some amount of commission business. Often we think of as legacy business. Maybe you've built it up over the years. It's oftentimes variable annuities that make sense for the client to hold on to. They might still be paying some trail. And it's a sizable amount of revenue for the practice, but also more importantly, oftentimes those same clients also have fee-based accounts with you. And so if you were to go into the RIA model, there are, and I've done episodes on this, solutions where you do not have to be 100% fee only to go and start to go down the RIA model path. There's different ways you could go about doing that. But if you were to start your own RIA and you needed a way to accommodate that, there are solutions. Hence, this is the hybrid setup, the most commonly referred to it, where you can also work with what are often referred to as RIA-friendly broker-dealers. And they say, hey, we understand you're going to have an RIA over here. We're going to consider that an outside business activity. We're not going to take an override on those fees that you generate, but we do realize you have that commission piece still, and we will play our part of being your broker-dealer for that piece of it. And hence, you have essentially created what is arguably the purest definition of a hybrid solution. You have an RIA, and there's some sort of kind of broker-dealer solution to accommodate it. Now, as I talk about frequently, so that's all available to you. If you are not 100% fee only now, that solution is potentially available to you. And the reason I say potentially is everything has kind of minimum. So how much fee-based assets do you have? Does it make sense to start an RIA? Will custodians work with you at whatever size you are? And the same thing on that RIA-friendly broker-dealer size. You have to have enough meat on the bone to make it worth their while. So I don't want to paint a picture that it works in every situation because the details matter, but that the format, the structure is there and is available and has been for quite some time. However, there are increasing solutions being introduced in the marketplace, and I've done episodes on these, where you can potentially still accommodate oftentimes those existing VA positions that are paying the trail without formally having to affiliate with a broker-dealer as a registered rep, but still be able to protect the client and all the things you're generally looking to do with that subset of your practice. And in that case, you might not even need a hybrid solution at all. That if you can essentially, I often refer to as solve for that remaining commission piece in a way that works for you, that works for your clients, but perhaps, and it's not always possible, but perhaps done under a structure that doesn't require that you have anything to do with the broker-dealer, that you're not registered with them, you're not affiliated with them, you don't have anything to do with the broker-dealer, you don't have anything to do with FINRA. You are a fee-only RIA that has some solutions for that remaining part of your practice. So I think it's those new entrants in the marketplace and new solutions for that, I think we'll continue to see kind of less need for some sort of hybrid solution, but just know that the hybrid solution absolutely still exists if it makes sense for your practice. And so with all that context, the point of this is to acknowledge, okay, so what's the difference between a hybrid RIA and a hybrid broker-dealer? And how I would articulate that, and we'll start with the broker-dealer one. This goes back to what I was just saying. The traditional quote-unquote broker-dealers that we think of in the marketplace were started solely as a broker-dealer, and for decades, they built up proprietary technology to support a commission-based solutions with commission-based clients. They built up policies and procedures from a compliance perspective, from an operational perspective, to support that kind of client. They often have people that have worked at these firms for a very long time. And these are some wonderful people, but they have, for perhaps decades, been working with this mostly FINRA broker-dealer kind of mindset. And these firms, again, because of demand in the marketplace, are having to reinvent themselves to be more of an RIA. And again, when you look at the stats, they actually fundamentally are more of an RIA than they are a broker-dealer. But it's not easy to unwind decades of institutional knowledge by team members, institutional policies and procedures and ways of doing things, decades literally of proprietary technology you've built that now it's a kind of a fundamentally different world over in the fee base. And so they're having to reinvent themselves. So I would consider that's a hybrid broker-dealer. They wouldn't want to call themselves that, but that's essentially what it is. It's a broker-dealer reinventing themselves into a kind of hybrid relationship, again, where they can support both as an advisor for you to wear both of those hats. Now, I think to their credit, I think some do it better than others. So there are some that I think are very forward thinking, are fully embracing it. They realize they have this legacy behind them, but are much more forward thinking in how they are adapting than other quote unquote broker dealers in the marketplace. But I think that is what you should think of as a hybrid broker dealers. It's something that's a hybrid solution, but the reality is they're predominantly broker dealer at heart, broker dealer by origin first, and then becoming an RIA. Flip that over to a quote unquote hybrid RIA. Now, again, you could have your own RIA, like I talked about, and attach some sort of broker dealer solution to it. Or if you were looking to join a quote unquote hybrid RIA, and there's all kinds of reasons you might consider joining an RIA versus starting your own. Done several episodes on that as well. But the idea is those RIAs in the marketplace, or the good ones in the marketplace, they were started solely essentially as an RIA. That is their origin. They weren't started as a broker dealer. They were started initially as an RIA where they could go out in the marketplace and say, hey, what are the best solutions, technologies, tools, everything to support the fee-based advisor? And let's start fresh from what's solely focused already on the fee-based advisor. And because we realize there are a number of advisors that have kind of still that usually smaller piece of legacy commission assets that they maybe need or want to still maintain, that, hey, as an RIA, we have also gone in the marketplace and found a solution for that. Again, whether it's an RIA-friendly broker-dealer or some of these other solutions I talk about where you can perhaps escape FINRA in the process. But make no mistake, they were born as an RIA. They are predominantly an RIA. The broker-dealer commission side is solely essentially an accommodation for advisors that still have a need for that type of solution included. So that's how I encourage you to think of the difference between a hybrid RIA and a hybrid broker-dealer. What were they originally? What are they perhaps being forced to evolve to? Or were they started from the jump with whatever you already might be most attracted to based on your specific practice? So kind of two takeaways from that, or that I'll leave you with. So one is, right, the expression is, don't let the tail wag the dog. So if you are inclined to find a better solution for your practice, a better type of firm to be part of, and you're going out in the marketplace, okay, maybe I don't want to start my own RIA. There's pros and cons to, by the way, all paths you could go down. I'd rather join a firm. And so I would ask you, look at your practice. If your practice is predominantly commission-based and maybe you have a minority amount in fee-based, or maybe none at all, guess what? The traditional broker-dealer firms are going to be your best bet. That is what they were built for. That is what they were started for. They have decades of experience in proprietary technology to support you. That's the path you should go down. If you're more kind of 50-50, it becomes a little more gray area, a little more blurry. But the reality is, to their credit, like an IBD example, they are often going to be a better solution for that advisor that's roughly 50% fee-based and 50% commission, just to give you an example, because they've had to straddle both sides of that. And again, they're working to evolve themselves, but they do have that deep background with the commission-based advisor. If, however, your practice is predominantly fee-based, or you're increasingly moving to a position of predominance, so whether you're 70, 80, 90, 100% fee-based, I would encourage you, okay, if you're going out to look at firms that were built to support that part of your practice first, predominantly out in the marketplace. They're not having to reinvent anything, and that are also have solutions for that remaining part of your commission assets as well. So that's what I encourage you. Don't let the tail wag the dog. If you're predominantly fee-based, I just struggle with why you'd go to a firm that is originally, again, decades worth of commission-based. Now, I don't want to dunk on all of them. Some of them have done a better job than others on evolving themselves, and I think they deserve credit for that. Some haven't, and you just need to be aware of that. But again, don't let the tail wag the dog on the profile of your practice and what kind of solution might be best for you. And then the final thing I'll just say is, again, just as a reminder, I said this at the top, and hopefully now this has added more context. Anytime you hear some solution provider out there talk about their hybrid solution, just take a pause and don't assume that what you think of as hybrid, whatever your common definition you might think of, is necessarily what they are talking about. So again, arguably different flavors of this hybrid definition. And it's oftentimes the sexy marketing thing to do for firms to call, oh, wow, look at our hybrid solution. And that might be a very good solution they have built out, but they might also just be using the buzzword. And the reality is it's not a whole lot different than if they hadn't used that word. So just be careful about who's using the term. And if you want to have a conversation with those folks, that's fine, but dive into it and make sure that you are understanding that what they are referring to from a structure, from a model of what their version of hybrid is they're touted is the same thing you are thinking of what they are referring to. And if there's a disconnect, obviously you're not going to be speaking the same language, and there's the conversation is just not going to progress as it should. So that's my suggestion. Don't let the tail wag the dog. Careful about anytime you use the word hybrid. It's not a bad word, but you got to make sure you know who you're talking to and what exactly they are referring to. So with that, I hope you found value in this episode. And as I said at the top, my name is Brad Wales with Transition to RIA. This is the type of thing I help advisors with all day long, is helping you understand how the marketplace works in the RIA model and what these quote-unquote hybrid RIAs are, and how you could maybe start your own RIA under a hybrid umbrella, or if you needed a hybrid solution to join. That is a typical conversation I have. Happy to have that conversation with you as well, because it's based on your specific practice, the profile of your practice, to know, okay, what does that look like? And then what are the options out in the marketplace, and what might you be best positioned to move into? Again, common thing I talk with advisors about. First things first, though, if you head on over to transitiontoria.com, you can find all of the resources I have to help you better understand the RIA model. Again, this entire series is available in video format, podcast format. I have articles, I have white papers. At the top of every page is a contact link. Click on that, and you can instantly and easily schedule time to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether you want to talk about today's topic or anything else RIA related. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. Again, transitiontoria.com. And with that, I hope you found value in today's episode, and I'll see you on the next one.